What is going on, guys? Duranathor here, and today I thought I'd try something a little bit different and go through a deck replay on Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, which involves me playing the Rikka Sunavalon and my opponent playing the typical meta deck of Albaz. So just before we get into a few things, obviously Losi is complete full combo, and haven't got any interactions for his turn, so the thought process is to start thinking about what can happen in the next turn, what the target for Called by the Grave wants to be, what the target for cross out, droplets. Obviously Sheet isn't going to be able to do anything at all, so at this point I don't know what he's playing, and seeing the Springen's kit come down instantly, you can tell Fallen of Albaz, so you have to start thinking, he's going to end on the Mirror Jade, he's possibly going to end on Branded in red face down, so because I can't do anything, the thought process is to start thinking of the next turn, but just to completely let it play out, I don't have the Ash for the Branded Fusion, I don't have Imperm, I don't have any interactions whatsoever. So he sent the Fallen of Albaz, the Despian Tragedy, so the Albaz is in there if he wants to use a Diffuse. Discarded an Imperm, which is interesting, and then makes me start to think, does he have a second? Does he have an Ash? What else does he have? And he's got the Aluba in hand. Albaz goes back to deck, Lebellion, to make the Mirror Jade. So he's got the Banish, and he's got a Face Down, which at this point I think is an Imperm. However, the draw, being a Rikka Glamour, is something to bait out Ash. I don't want to Sunseed Genius Losi, make it into Dryas, try and add the Sunvine Sowing, and for him to either banish or Ash the Sowing, because that will then just completely end my turn. Call by the Grave, at this point the only target is Despian Tragedy, which is probably the better one. Either that, or it was possibly to go for the Albaz if he had kept that. I honestly have no idea what the face down is, and we know he has Alubar in hand. We just don't know one of the others. So, as I said, the first thing you do, you play the Rikka Glamour, try and bait out the Ash. I think I'll add the Rikka Petal. It doesn't have the Ash. I play the Petal because it doesn't cross my mind that because he's discarded one Imperm, he might have a second. I don't even think I checked Grave at this point to see that he'd discarded an Imperm. I just bolted. I probably shouldn't have played the Petal, but the thought process behind it was, if he's going to target to banish, which I would assume he would do pretty much as soon as I played Petal, I could chain the Droplet, discard something from hand, and negate the Mirror Jade. He doesn't, so I activate the Petal to add Snowdrop. And Snowdrop is the tribute to summon 2, so I then think he's going to do it now. Which he doesn't, lets me do the opportunity to activate the Snowdrop, which tributes this as cost. So, Petal goes, and I plan to play the Losi and the Snowdrop. He chains with Max C, so now I know the only other card in his hand is an Albaz, and if he had Imperm, he would have played something by now. So the decision is whether I Called by the Grave or whether I do the Crossout Designator. I go for the Crossout because I have my own Max C and kind of think, I'm not going to get a chance to do anything. I know what's in his hand, I know he has follow-up. I have to either finish it now or make it so that he can't do anything in his next turn. Crossout Designator turns out to be the right play, and I'll show you in a moment, but I cross out my own Maxi to negate his effect, because it's then also a card that I won't draw, so if it does get to the chance where he somehow survives next turn, I need follow-up as well, which was also another process behind the Petal, because Petal will come back at the end of the turn. So cross out, send my own Maxi, and I think at this point, because the crossout's going to be going anyway, I'm going to chain the Droplet to send the crossout, and try and negate his Mirror Jade, so that I don't have to worry about the banish. I'm not 100% sure his sort of reasoning behind this, but he chains it to banish itself. My guess was so that the Albion goes to the grave, and that he has follow-up for next turn, because Albion can add in the end phase, so I don't have to worry about that now. But yeah, he changed his Mirror Jade and gets rid of his own Mirror Jade. I would have thought he'd probably got rid of the kit to keep the other sort of Mirror Jade destruction effect, maybe, but it does what it does. Everything plays out. His Maxine gets negated. My Snowdrop summons Low C. And then he chains his face down, which is to target Despia monster and fuse. If I had called by the grave the Max C, I would now have no way to stop this play. So that was the thought process behind keeping the call by the grave. He targets his Despian Tragedy, chain call by, remove the Tragedy. So now I know everything that he's got, because he has an Aluber in hand. There is no problems here whatsoever with anything that I want to do. So the replays don't show it. His Despian Tragedy gets negated. The replay does show that bit. But at this point, I took a long time to think, because I either have to finish it this turn, or set him up so he can't do anything next turn, and I have responses. I have the sheet. I know I'm getting Petal back at the end of his turn if it does reach that point. And Low C is full combo into a Bengal Answer, which is 2500 and can return this to hand if I really wanted to. So I had to do the thought process of determining where I wanted to go and what I wanted to do. So the thought process didn't fully start until we reached the Jasmine. Everyone should know this combo by now. You take the K, you gain the K, Twin summons Low C, Dryas summons Healer. Those two make Jasmine. Twin makes a Dryas. Low C makes a Healer. Gain 300, add something to your hand. So this is all just complete autopilot. But still trying to think ahead, still trying to think of how I want to end it. I know I've got the Jasmine to tribute to summon something, so I could make 2 level 8s, Snowdrop and the other. But 2800 and 2500 isn't enough. So it's at this point where I gain the 300 with the Jasmine effect. Once again, I stopped for a good 20-30 seconds thinking of what I wanted to do. Add the Primula, because when something is tributed, the Primula summons herself. So when Jasmine effect is done to tribute, Primula will summon. I do that, tribute the Dryas. I summon Moodon, so I can add the Tranquility. The other card I could have summoned was Mardell. But they both do the same thing, because with Mardell I would just be adding the Mudan, because there would be no point going for anything else. I want to use Mudan's other effect to tribute. So chain the Primula, summon the Primula. What I can do with Snowdrop is to make all of these level 4, and then use Primula effect to make the Snowdrop level 6. So these two will go into Strenna, which when tributed summons a level 5 or higher plant Xyz, which will be the Snowdrop, and then the Mudan that gets summoned will be the Kanzashi. So I have Bengal Answer, Kanzashi, and Teardrop, which still isn't enough. 4900, 6900, 7700, and with a tribute 7900, so we'd still be on 100. The other option I could have gone for was to go for Ulse, and to put the Spriggan kit back to the top of his deck. But I realised that with Kanzashi, it's whenever something is tributed. So say the Mudan comes back, tribute the Strenna, play the Mudan. You don't get the search again, but the Strenna makes the Teardrop. And these two make the Kanzashi. It was also a case of destruction prevention, other follow-ups. So if somehow everything went differently and he does survive, I have a bounce back to hand, destruction prevention, and a summon from a tribute. The tribute to go with it, the Petal to come back at the end of the turn, the sheet to steal a monster, and the Tranquility to bring back 2 of my monsters, both of which are tributes which do activate Kanzashi, even though it's only once per turn. But I realised that if I go into the battle phase, this is to play around Effect Veiler. I know he's got Aluba, I don't need to play around Effect Veiler. He would have activated Veiler way, way earlier. But it always helps just to play around cards. Tribute his Spriggan kit, which is negated because of Droplet, so it doesn't matter whether he has another effect. Kanzashi can summon something back, and at this point it's anything that has more than 100 attack. But I go for the Strenna just to keep the plants. And once again, attacking with Strenna first. Lowest attack monster, just in case he has Gauze. I know it's Albaz, but play around the Gauze. I haven't encountered a Gauze for about 12 years. Play around it. And that's game.